However, they will ask you a few questions about how to read an altimeter and what it tells you when you do read it. Well, we all know how to read altimeters. It's easy. We've been in airplanes. We can read altimeters, no problem whatsoever. However, on the FAA written exam, it's a different ball game. You see, in an airplane, you know whether you're at 500 feet, 5,000 feet, or 15,000 feet, but on a piece of paper, you don't have a clue. So it's tougher on the FAA written exam, and not only that, they ask you trickier questions. So let's see how they're going to ask you questions about reading an altimeter on the FAA written exam. Okay, to do that, let's take a look at altimeter 1. Now, the trick to reading these altimeters is what you do is recognize that there are 3 hands on the altimeters on the FAA written exam. Then what you do is read each hand individually and add up the total of each of the 3 hands. For instance, if you look at this altimeter here, there's one teeny tiny hand right here, and that's the tens of thousands hand. Now, in this particular case, the tens of thousands hand is pointing between the 1 and the 2. And whenever a hand points between 2 numbers, you always call it the smallest number. For instance, if you look at your watch and it's 2:15, well, when you do that, the little hand on your watch would be between 2 and 3. But you wouldn't call it 3:15, you call it 2:15, because when you look at your watch and a hand falls between 2 numbers, you always call it the smaller number. Well, the same way on an altimeter. When the hand falls between 2 numbers, you always call it the smaller number. So how many tens of thousands do we have here? You got it right, it's 1/10,000. Now, the next hand, the fat hand, tells you thousands. And it's in between 2 numbers, so how many thousands do we have? You got it, 0 thousands. And then this is the hundreds hand. The long hand, the one that's really easiest to read, is the hundreds hand, and that's 5 hundredths. And basically what each hand tells you is what percentage of the way between the 2 numbers the previous hand was. This hand is telling you that the thousands hand is halfway in between the 0 and the 1. It's 5 hundredths, and it tells you that right there. So we'll write down the 5 hundredths, and to figure out what this altimeter reads, all we have to do is total them up, and I get 1,000,500. Let's do altimeter number 2. In altimeter number 2, we read the smallest hand first, the tens of thousands hands. It's in between the 1 and 2. What are we going to call it? You got it, 1/10,000. And then we look at the thousands hands. That's the big fat hand. It's in between the 4 and 5. So how many thousands do we have? We got 4 thousands. And then the long skinny hand, the one that's really easiest to read, tells us how many hundreds. It's easy in this case, it's 5 hundredths. And so we get 14,500. Add them up and you get 14,500. Now let's take a look at altimeter number 3. Altimeter number 3, we got a problem. Is this pointing to the 1 or before the 1 or after the 1, this little teeny tiny tens of thousands hand? Well, to find the answer to that question, you can go look at the thousands hand. And if it's just after the 1 or at the 1, the thousands hand would be reading 0, but no, it's reading 9 thousandths. It's 90% of the way around here, and that tells you that this hand is 90% of the way in between 2 numbers. Well, it's sure not 90% of the way between the 1 and 2, so it's 90% of the way between the 0 and the 1. So believe it or not, this hand, because this thousands hands told us that, this hand is not quite to the 1, so how many tens of thousands do we have here? And the answer is 0 tens of thousands. All right, now let's take a look at the thousands hand. We have it in between a 0 and a 9, so how many thousands is that? 9 thousands. And then look at the hundreds. It's easy, that's 5 hundredths. So all we have to do is add that up, total them up, and you get 9,500. So you and I now know how to read an altimeter on a piece of paper as well as in an airplane.